effects, digital art. This stuff will also really be great for founders, anybody in business. It's really great. We're going to go over some of the basics. This is part of my introduction. My name is Jessica near McDonald. Like I said, I'm a trademark and copyright attorney. I do have my own law firm, so I'm happy to share with you some of the things that I've learned myself as a business owner that I think artists should also keep in mind in completing their creative endeavors. And I'm happy to share that. And up here is 6529 memes, if anybody's familiar with it. It's a CC0 project. I'll go over that as well. But it relates to IP, and I like digital art too. So GM, everyone. So what is IP, intellectual property? The big three are really copyright, trademark, and patents. And more applicable here, especially in the blockchain space, are trademark and copyright. So things that are IP-ish, you may have heard of trade secrets. So things that a company keeps, it's not granted by the government, but rather a protection that your company keeps secret. And rights of publicity, so protecting a name, image, likeness, and contracts, those terms and conditions, that nice little box we click and just say, yeah, accept. And then we have data ownership. So these are IP tangential, and I think as we chat through some of these things, you'll see how they're related. So if anyone can guess which one of the big three this is, original works of authorship fixed in any tangible medium of expression. Trademark, copyright, what do you think? Patent? Copyright. So I should say, so I'm a US-based attorney, but for the most part, this definition of sorts is really worldwide. So once you fix it in a tangible medium, so whether that be a writing, whether that a writing that you turn, that you finish writing, boom, automatically protected. Or a recording that you start recording, you press the stop button, automatically protected. Copyright is automatically granted. And that's where we get into why people say that use CC0 to say that they are releasing the automatic protection that comes along with copyright. So again, automatic, and I'll talk a little bit on here, it comes with these really 5 exclusive rights. So the right to reproduce, the right to create derivatives, the right to distribute, perform. These rights are exclusively given to the person that creates it. So these slides, for example, are fixed in a tangible medium, therefore they're protected by copyright automatically. I don't have to go to my government's office and apply for a registration, though you can and you should if you're in the US. Because one of the things that I mentioned on the bottom here is you actually need a registration to sue in the US. Doesn't mean you need to do it, but we have some really, really nice benefits once you do register that will help really somebody else think twice before stealing your work. This is another CC0 work. And just to kind of go over, because we hear these terms a lot in Web3, Creative Commons is an international organization, really, and they have different licenses or permissions that you can use as artists, or it's really more for visual works that it applies best for. But one of the types of licenses is called CC0, Creative Commons 0, and the idea is that even though that protection was granted automatically, those exclusive rights that are listed here came to me automatically, I'm releasing them to the extent I can. So anybody, you don't need to ask me for permission, you do whatever you want to it. I'm releasing my claim of ownership. It's not something that can get taken back. So if anybody followed what was going on with Moonbirds, not something that can get taken back. So here's another form of IP, name, logo, or other symbol designating source. Anyone want to take a guess of this other form of intellectual property? Trademark. Yeah. So use Jack Butcher here to give an example, because he did have a collection called Trademarks that was pretty interesting. When we see that TM or R symbol or an SM symbol. Those all refer to trademarks. SM's technically service mark, but basically it's used in connection with something else. So if anybody watched Beeple today, Beeple, even just his name, right, is a designation of source. What is he selling? He's selling art. He's selling digital art. That's something that you can protect as an artist, your name. It's something that is usually signed on the art itself, so another form of protection for you. I personally think this is really, really important in the blockchain space, and that's because we're all about verifying, we're all about the trustless application, decentralization. To me, being able to designate source is extremely important. We want you to be able to safely buy your meme coins that you're going to buy anyways, or safely buy your digital art that you think is coming from a particular artist. And in our internet world, trademarks still form such an important component because your domain name, for example, that is protected by trademarks. So you can get, if somebody's tried to register your domain name in bad faith, you can try to get that domain name transferred to you to stop scammers from trying to scam your people. One of the things that I probably was remiss in mentioning in the beginning is, in addition to having my own law firm that focuses on intellectual property, I'm also head of global trademarks for Midjourney, a text-to-image generative AI company, and this is such an important piece of trying to keep people safe, right? Like, so that if you want to use a particular tool, you know where to go and you can do so safely. So does anybody know what these two things refer to? Just yell it out. Anybody knows what this is? What collection this is? Bored Ape, yeah. Bored Ape Yacht Club. What the heck does Bored Ape Yacht Club and these furry purses have in common? So does anyone know what the furry purses are? Meta Birkins. So there was a collection called Meta Birkins that Mason Rothschild, the pseudonym, created, and they are made to be furry versions of the notable handbag by Hermes called Birkins, and he got sued for it. So this is an instance where two artists got sued not for copyright infringement, but for trademark infringement. And this is just a common misnomer with copyright versus trademark, but in the Meta Birkins instance, it was really over the use of the name Meta Birkins that was at issue. And these are two very big trials that occurred in the US that we just got recent decisions on. So in both instances, the artist lost. In the second instance with Bored Ape Yacht Club, writer Rips and a colleague created a collection called RRBAYC. So instead of Bored Ape Yacht Club BAYC, he created RRBAYC. And on Foundation and other marketplaces, it used Bored Ape Yacht Club in the domain name. It looked like if you went to the page on some of the secondary marketplaces, it said Bored Ape Yacht Club. And it was very interesting conversation because what the artist, writer Rips and his colleague did was created another collection and pointed to the same essentially image that Yuga Labs had with their Bored Ape Yacht Club collection. So but he was kind of self-provoking a copyright fight, and it ended up to be a trademark fight because it was all about the name, all about source. Right? So I just want to leave you with some things to think about with IP and how this applies to our everyday. So we went a lot over like what's trademark, what's copyright. But terms and conditions, especially if you're a digital artist, to be thinking about is what are in the terms and conditions when you're uploading something to a marketplace? What permissions, which license, what permissions are you giving to the license place, right? You don't want to be transferring your rights and transferring all your say in those rights that you have. You're most likely dealing with licenses or permission, same as when you're buying collections that claim to give you commercial rights, right? So I just want to leave it there really quick because I believe it was a really short chat. But if anybody has any questions, I'd love to answer, or we can chat afterwards. Any feedback for me? I'd love to hear it. Yep. So the question being, I'm using generative AI text-to-image services. I'm creating these images for fun and posting them. What's going on? Are you going to make money from? Yeah. So what if you're being accused from infringement from the output on something that you created using an AI generator? There are some litigation going on right now in the U.S. I think we're at over 20 now. It is really obscene how many involve copyright, because we're really talking about copyright infringement here. It's my personal belief, and remember, I represent an AI image generator. It's my personal belief that what the generator is doing is not infringement. But there's some really interesting questions that we really remain to be seen. We haven't had any decisions come out yet, but I think we're probably going to be looking at something maybe by the end of the year, early next year, and some more hopefully concrete questions that will probably get appealed. So. Yeah. What's one of the, Yeah, and so one of the things, is it a risk? Is it a risk to use it? I think that some of these generators, again, you have to look at the terms and conditions that is coming with it, because some of them even have some form of indemnification. It's a big word to say, we'll cover you if X happens. It needs very specific. The language needs to be very specific, and you should look at that carefully. But it's really tough to say. There's been, I know. Part of the question is it even protectable under copyright? There's questions about how the engines were trained and whether or not that can in turn lead to somebody typing in a prompt and produce an output to be infringement. I think a lot of it is going to come down to how you're ultimately using the output to discern whether or not a user is actually going to be held liable. But just as what we're seeing on questions on whether or not AI-generated artwork is going to be even protectable under copyright, we're seeing different answers in different parts of the world. So it's a fascinating conversation, and I really wish I could give you a more straightforward answer, but it's definitely one to follow. Yeah. Okay. Time. Thank you all so much.